Okie doke. Trying to pick this up real quick. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add to the minutes, amend the old minutes from the May 4th meeting?
On the discussion of the trail sculpture, didn't we recommend to the city council that they produce a resolution?
We did produce a resolution.
Yes.
Right.
And the city council, we talked with the administration, and we decided that we wanted to create an RFP to select the person to put together, organize the event, and the city council approved that, so that's where we're at with that.
Okay, but in the case of discussion of trail sculpture show, action taken would be suggested resolution, wouldn't it?
Oh, in the minutes?
Yeah, in the minutes.
I think it says something about made a motion to draft the resolution. Is that what you're looking for?
No, we actually, that was the final action of that particular event was ask for a resolution.
Yeah, it's the last paragraph on the second page. FAC directed staff to draft a resolution in support of the motion passed with 6-0 vote. Right above Roman numeral 4.
I think you.
I think
You may have.
Minutes of the meeting of the Fayetteville Arts Council, May 4th.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got it here too.
There you are.
The vote's even recorded.
Yeah.
I see. So I was not looking at the minutes. Okay.
Does anybody else have anything?
Do we have you have a motion?
So moved.
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, ayes.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. Minutes approved. Okay, first I just want you to give us a sort of the full detail how the RFP is going to work and everything.
Well, let's talk about, can we
Yeah. Okay.
talk about Hank's project?
Yeah.
Hank's got a commitment tonight.
Okay.
He needs to get out of here, so we can talk about that, and then I'll update you all.
Hank, you have the floor.
And I've got to serve barbecue to 20 indigenous leaders from the Spring International Club. So it's going to be a lot of fun. What I'm proposing is a piece of sculpture. And there are drawings in the back of this presentation. There are several drawings. One is a site drawing, and this one is a mechanical drawing. But the two drawings I would recommend looking at are side view and front view further down the road. This is the bronze portion of it, is a piece of the same size and inclination as the Peaceburg Fountain. It was a piece of bronze that was made as a test for the process of making the Peaceburg Fountain. I had never cast anything that big, and so I had to teach myself how to make it. And this bronze piece was one of the elements in a month-long test. It had a defect. I couldn't use it in the final sculpture. Besides, it wasn't designed to be in the final sculpture. It had a little part around on the side of it that didn't cast. So I left it on the studio floor with a saw next to it, and I was going to saw it up into pieces to feed back in the furnace. Well, at one of the shows that I had at the gallery, at the studio, a woman who is very interested in the World Peace Wetland Prairie asked me about this piece of bronze that I had laying on the studio floor. And I said, I'd sell it for scrap. And she said, would you sell it for scrap and install it in World Peace Wetland Prairie? And I said, sure. So here it is, and the philosophy behind the piece, the one that says front view, You're looking at it from eye level. You're looking at it from ground level. That's that center mark. It rises up above the ground as if it was growing out of the earth. I've described it as a wart. However, that's maybe a little bit not complimentary.
What's the elevation?
5 feet.
Okay.
The elevation at the top of the sculpture is 5 feet. The sculpture comes down, and at the bottom of the sculpture is 43 inches. 43 inches happens to be wheelchair height. So that is placed at a location which will be able to be seen by just about anybody as a landform moving up from out of the land. That is the philosophy behind the piece and the derivation of the piece. There is a photograph available. Would you hold it up?
Is it,
It's
just
coming-
kind of
it's coming
passing it
around.
around?
Yeah, this is a photograph of the piece itself in a different mounting. Right? This has got a steel pedestal that holds it up. The piece itself is sitting in front of the Northwest Arkansas Community College on loan there. This piece. But the other piece, the one that was the copy of this when we cast it a second time to prove that we could do it, is the piece going at the World Peace Wetland Prairie. I don't think there's anything else more to cover.
The only other thing that I would add, Hank, is that we brought this to the Parks Board 2 nights ago, Monday night, and they discussed it, and they forwarded it with a motion of approval and a vote of 6-0, so a unanimous vote of the Parks Board to move it forward. So with approval of the Arts Council, the next step would be to take it to the City Council for their approval, and then Hank would be ready to go to do the installation.
Right. Now, one issue that did come up at the Parks Board was the issue of maintenance, especially with respect to mowing. And what I offered to do was to consult with the Parks Department as to the kind of vegetation that could be placed on this mound that would not encroach too much on the sculpture. And mind you, a little bit of encroachment is really a cool idea. You know, because that gives the impression that this thing's pushing its way out of something that's dense and massive. So I like the idea, but I don't want it to be overshadowed by the vegetation. So we will work something out about that.
And the OMNI Center works with the maintenance of that area, so it's kind of, you've got the Parks Department, the OMNI Center for Justice and Peace, some neighbors, all taking care of that area. So we'll probably have to work something out.
And it is that community that will be responsible for the installation. I mean, they're already with picks and shovels, you know, to start digging the foundation and getting it going. And I hope that I don't have to do too much work, but saying there and then not there but there kind of thing. So I'll see.
I mean, obviously it's meant to be permanent, but how permanent will it be? How does bronze survive, you know, on the ground?
We may have a problem with it in a couple, 500 or 600 years.
Okay.
But probably not, because it's exposed. But it's exposed to the atmosphere, to oxygen, and also any chemicals that might be in the air. It will affect the surface of it, and they will change the color of it. But my understanding is that material in this condition can last hundreds of years without any trouble, because a patina develops on the surface that is impermeable. And I'm hoping for that sort of thing. I will not lacquer this piece. I will not patina it with any chemicals other than naturally occurring chemicals. This particular piece is really going to be as pure as it can get. This blue that's on here is a chemical patina. And also this particular one, I mean, it's an intense set of chemicals. And this particular piece, like many of the others of that era, are covered with a really high-grade lacquer, which, sitting in the sun, flakes off. The butterfly fountain at the Botanical Gardens, we approved that. It's flaky. would like it to just be gorgeous. If I could kick it to a green, that would be nice. So I may use some chlorides. Anyway, that's the story on longevity.
All right.
It's not pertinent to approval, but just for information's sake, what, you said that they're ready to go pick and shovel, but what kind of timeline are you thinking?
I really have not nailed them down yet. But I'm sure they're gonna want to do it fairly quickly from the enthusiastic greeting that I got when I told them that it had been approved by Parks.
I guess the only other thing that I would add would be that, Hank, you'll need to recuse yourself from the vote.
Right.
But that's all this stuff has.
So can we still have quorum, because it looks like everybody's here, so or most everybody. Now, the costs associated with it, are they being picked up by Parks or?
It's all being picked up by the donor and the OMNI Center for Peace
Okay.
and Justice.
So basically
And Hank.
they're doing the labor, so there really isn't an actual cost, I guess, except some little bit of materials. Okay.
I got the feeling that they would be interested in mowing it if the others didn't mow it. Of course, there's a cost associated with that, but it's in the future. And anyway, we have the promise now that they will mow it, the OMNI Center people.
All right. Well, I don't see any reason to make this take any longer. Somebody want to make a motion?
No, I need to recuse myself.
You don't have to leave.
Yeah, you
You just don't.
No, you just
vote.
can't.
It doesn't have to be a secret
You just can't
vote.
vote.
You just can't vote on it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was so.
Pass around the secret ballots. All right.
Well, I would move for approval.
Okay. Get a motion? Do I see a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The ayes have it. Did you get the vote? Okay. All right. So moved.
Very exciting.
Wait till next month.
What's that?
Wait till next month.
Yeah.
I've got another one coming down the pike.
Oh, you do, Hank. Very exciting.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm afraid I have to leave.
Now,
Okay, have fun.
have fun serving barbecue.
Yes.
Thanks, Hank.
Thank you.
All right. So let's get back to RFP. And is there a copy of the, I haven't had a chance to look through this. Is there a copy of the
RFP
well, not the RFP, but the
resolution.
the resolution, yeah.
No, I didn't put one in there.
Okay.
But I did get it back from you on signed, so.
Yeah.
I should have put it in this packet.
I forgot, I remember it and I forgot to print it out. But I did review it. I'm assuming everybody else had a chance to look at it. Yeah, so give me the rundown on the RFP.
Yeah, so what we did after the Arts Council meeting is we talked with the administration about the proposal. And there were some concerns about, in terms of discussions have happened in the past with other artists that were proposing similar kind of concepts, and the city didn't act upon them. And so the administration felt that to make it as fair as possible for anybody that would want to propose something like this, that we create an RFP and a request for proposals, and advertise it and see who applied and what their proposal was. And so what staff is doing currently is we're doing a lot of research. We're talking with people that put on the show in Loveland, Colorado. We're trying to get in contact with some people in Little Rock. We haven't been able to get a hold of exactly the right person down there to talk about what they do in Little Rock. Similar things happen in cities all over the United States, and they all do them a little bit differently. So we're trying to get a handle on that, and then work up a request for proposal proposal that we hope meets the intent of what Mr. Davis brought before the Arts Council last time. Now, it may be a little different. There's some concern about having artwork for sale or having it installed year-round for 365 days. And so we may be looking at doing something shorter, like a weekend event, which is more what you typically see. But it's all kind of up in the air right now as how that's going to work forward. What we did do is we went to the city council and we brought a resolution to them asking if they were in support of it, and the city council was in support of moving forward.
And that was when we were still talking about like sort of things being out there for a year. Or was that when it came back?
Well, it was after that discussion that we had with the administration. We decided that staff would like to do an RFP, and so we went to the city council and asked them to approve a resolution directing staff to begin working on creating a request for proposal. So that's really where we are right now. So I don't really have a lot of information on that, other than the fact that it's kind of an ongoing thing. One of the discussions we did have with somebody, they said it really takes about a year to get one of these things put together. So, you know, we may be looking at fall of 2012 in terms of the timeline. I know that Mike had talked about maybe having it in time for the Crystal Bridges.
Yeah, in November.
I'd like staff to particularly keep their eyes open when they're doing the research in terms of something that might be in between the year-long thing and the weekend thing. Like, what's occurring to me is that we might could do something real successfully, like on a seasonal basis, like say a fall or a spring thing, and tie it in with some other promotional things that may be going on in the city. Does that make any sense? And if that doesn't exist, then we can be the first.
Yeah.
But something seasonal that could tie into some other event that could boost a promotion could be, I think, really cool. Because fall and spring are typically, you know, big trail times, and
yeah. Yeah, I think at this point it's really up in the air even where we would have the event, and it will depend upon a timeline. A lot of these three-dimensional shows, they want to have an indoor space because they've got pieces that they don't want out in the sun, or they don't want under a tent. You know, the smaller pieces typically, because they're mounted on wooden or steel plinths, and the larger pieces obviously that are built to go outdoors, you know, you can display those outdoors. So we're really just starting to get our feet wet, looking at what everybody else does, what organizations are involved with putting it together, helping to staff it, all those things. So when we get a better handle on that, then we'll go back with that RFP and ask if that's the direction they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like right now it's wide open. I mean, it could be basically sort of like a week, somewhere between a weekend show and then sort of like a small version of what Hank just proposed. So it's like I guess we need to decide whether it's meant to be short-term or semi-permanent, because I mean, there's plenty of types of art and sculpture that, you know, are designed from the get-go to live outside for, you know,
absolutely,
you know, indefinitely, like, you know, lots of fountains, lots of big sculpture, like you know, Alexander Calder.
I think it's
stuff.
Yeah, it's really just what kind of show do you want to do? You want it to be an outdoor sculpture show where you're only looking at three-dimensional pieces that are meant to exist outside.
Yeah, and that way it's and I don't know if this is what, you know, Mr. Davis had in mind, but what he originally pitched was, I was thinking like a sculpture garden strewn out along the trail system, basically. But it sounds like we might be back to,
well, there's,
you know, everything up in the air.
There's some legal concern. I think it would be possible to do a year-long show, but we would have to amend some ordinances, and I think there's
liability issues.
Yeah, a lot of it is just selling art
On public
selling
property.
stuff on public
Yeah.
property. Anytime you get into doing that, it becomes a, we do it in parks in terms of concessions. We do it in terms of the pedicab, but the city council require the pedicab to take their advertising down when they're actually on the trail, so they can have their advertising boards up when they're on the streets, but when they go, and so there's a very,
Well, you
There's
can't
a-
park
there's a
your
very-
car at the park and put the for sale sign
Yeah.
on it, I mean,
when you open that door, I guess,
Well, even though a particular piece may not be for sale, certainly if someone identified a piece they like, an artist may have something similar or be able to commission something
Mhm.
similar, so there's still, just because that particular piece doesn't get sold.
well, I think there was, we even kicked around the idea that, we would just sort of make it plain that nothing was for sale during the show, but all the
Yeah.
pieces would be for sale once the show was over.
Right.
So we're not running the risk of some sort of, selling something off of public property, like a flea market or something.
You can't, the price tag off the edge of it.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're at with that.
So, before they really do the RFP, I'm assuming the legal aspects are gonna have to be made
Yes.
plain, okay? What kind of, like you laid out the timeline, could be,
Yeah,
next year.
we would like to get the RFP out there, before this fall.
Okay.
I have a question.
And we kind of got a rough draft of it put together.
Who literally does it? RFP.
Yeah, who is gonna be writing it? Is that staff? You're doing it? Okay. And I guess the question is, this whole concept was generated by Mike Davis. Once we do the RFP, I'm assuming he'll have to
He would have-
rework his
he would have
pitch
to-
to fit with the
If he was
RFP.
Yeah.
interested, he would have-
Right. And so it's kind of a fine line of how general do you write the RFP and how specific.
Yeah.
And so any of those points that legal or the administration is very specific about, we want it this way, is probably gonna get in there. And then anything that's more generalized, you're gonna leave it to the event promoter, applicant to kind of lay out how that would work. The other thing that the administration really wanted to see out of this, which is different from what Mr. Davis proposed, and is commonly what you see in other sculpture shows across the country, is the city will take a percentage of the gross sales of the show for putting it on, for having it on public property. And what we would like to do is take that money and put it into an account, and then the city would purchase permanent pieces of public art to go on parks and trail lands. And so it becomes a way to generate revenue to add to the city's collection of public art, and that's ultimately the goal.
And I guess it might even be conceivable that if some of these pieces that wind up as part of the show are the type of thing like something similar to Hank's that could, live out there on the trail indefinitely, we might even.
That's right.
The city might even look at purchasing them and leaving them in place or
Yeah,
something.
I think Loveland, Colorado, they've done this show for, I think they're almost at 30 years, 28 years or something.
Okay, so they-
And in years past, they have bought the best of show piece
Yeah, that's
in
kinda
the
what I was
outdoor
thinking,
sculpture
the best of
category.
show.
That's a great-
They've put the money, they've done it so many years, they've got a pot of money, and they'll just agree to buy whatever piece wins best of show.
You know the name of that? I go up there often.
It's called Sculpture in the Park in
I
Loveland.
could find it.
There's actually two different shows. The Sculpture in the Park, I think, is the older of the shows. And then they do another show across the street at the high school, across the street from the park where they do the Sculpture in the Park show. And it was really a spin-off, because the Sculpture in the Park show is a juried show, and so they're getting some really big name, nationally, internationally known artists. And so I think there was another group that felt that we needed to do a different, you know, and so they do these two shows across the street from each other the same weekend every year, and it draws a lot of people. So
Well,
I'd like to go.
bees and monkeys.
kind of the high-end show and the
Up and coming show.
Down
The-
there.
attainable
the
show.
local- the local
The more
show,
modest
yeah.
show.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, events like that, they draw so many big people, it's hard for
Mhm.
local artists to, you know.
But everybody does it a little bit differently. You know, Little Rock, they say that a certain percentage of the artists have to be local, or a certain percentage of the pieces have to be culturally significant in some way. You know, so they've set up parameters for, you know, kind of what pieces
That's a
can
bear right there.
can even go in the show. You know, and I could see us doing something where we would want a percentage to be local or Arkansas artists. So everybody just kind of does it a little bit differently.
Well, it sounds like there's enough, you know, things have been going on long enough, it shouldn't be hard to sort of, you know, find some best practices to
Yeah.
model after.
So I know you can't do for sale, you know, that seems to be an issue, but concessions could be sold if there was something.
Well, I
like
don't think the
that.
issue is the for sale, it's the length of time that you have a piece out there on public
Okay.
property that is for sale.
Okay,
I think we're comfortable with doing a shorter
Weekend.
time duration.
yeah. Okay.
And not necessarily a weekend or a week, you know, maybe
Like
a
a
month
season,
long or
I
a,
like
you
A few weeks.
know, a couple months or, you know.
It seems like an awful lot of trouble to go to for
Well,
like
that's the
a
thing.
weekend.
Well, the other problem though is those pieces are out there and yeah, the artist or the show promoter would have to have liability insurance for them, but you know, the other thing is the piece from the artist is sitting out there for a long period of time, that they're not, you know, it's not like they bring it for a weekend, they sell it, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and then if they don't sell it, they're gonna have to come back and get it.
And I mean, I know this is kind of just talking about it right now, but I love the idea of being able to purchase a piece, like a best in show piece for the city.
Mhm.
I love that idea, and I wondered if there's things we can do to support that, like attendees maybe can vote for their favorite piece by donation. And that's how we choose best of show, and all the donations come to help us purchase that
Yeah.
best of show. You know, like,
Yeah, because those are all those little technical things that'll have to work out.
Yeah,
Is
and I
it
guess
a
an
jury
event
show?
promoter,
How do you
yeah.
determine who's
Yeah.
on the jury?
And if it's on public property that's accessible to the public every day, like, it's not like you could charge for it.
Yeah.
Seeing the show, because it's strewn out all over.
Yeah.
It's charged to vote, like you said.
yeah, I'm thinking like
I like the
piggy
idea.
banks in front
Yeah.
of the piece, and you vote by putting your penny in, and then whoever gets the most pennies at the end of the show,
Yeah.
that's the piece we
You
buy.
give everybody one ticket, and you
Mhm.
put that ticket in the jar of the piece.
Yeah, I
you
would
buy.
think it would have to be a
tickets.
non-monetary
Yeah.
thing
Probably,
that's
that'd
going on,
be too
because
tempting.
otherwise it's gonna get ripped off, it's gonna
Yeah.
get vandalized and stuff.
But we could maybe sell tickets and then you vote. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
like that idea of sort of building our coffers to purchase art for the city that feels so strongly about having it, and this would be a way to fund that. So
Little Rock started their show, I think this is their 4th year. They've bought 44 pieces of art.
wow.
But they had somebody, anonymous donor, give them $50,000 for the first 3 years to bankroll and get it going. And they lost money the first 3 years, and last year they finally made
Finally
money.
turned it around. Wow.
They made, I think, $60,000 last year. So it's, you know, and talking to some of those folks down there, there's a pretty high failure rate. So, you know, it has to be really well thought out to pull it off, and then you have to have the community engagement to pull off the event.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know.
That's why I think tying it with another something.
Yes.
good.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone suggested doing it the week before or the week after the Little Rock show, which would make a lot of sense, because you probably can have a lot of the same artists in the state. And if you did it the week before or the week after, you know, maybe you could pull some of those artists, you know, that have multiple pieces to come up and do this show and do Crystal Bridges and,
Yeah.
you know, so that the travel for the artist, I mean, that's a big thing for the artist is the travel and the time and the money.
Yeah.
So if you could hold those two events close together, it might make it more
accessible to
more
the artists.
accessible.
When do they do theirs in the fall?
They do theirs in the fall. And I can't remember exactly what weekend. The hard thing about here in Fayetteville with the fall, I mean, we pretty much know when Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue is going to happen every year. But the football games, you know, change from year to year when you have a home game, when you have away games. So
And that schedule doesn't really get set until
it doesn't get
pretty close down in the
you,
summer.
you know, you can't look in the spring and know.
Yeah. But if we had it over the course of a month and, you know, we just know that there's gonna be some home games that month and hopefully an away game that month or two.
Yeah.
It's really here in our town, we would almost be forced to do a longer show if we're gonna do it in the fall, in order to get the,
And maybe football games would be good
Oh, I think so.
because you got all those people here.
I
you
think
know.
so.
oh yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
and it's an outdoor thing. People are outdoors for
Yeah.
the football games.
So,
I don't know. I know he originally had thought about this November, and it doesn't sound like that's really accessible for us. But next November we'll be celebrating a year anniversary. That might be
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
something to target. You know, I mean, I'm guessing the museum will probably have some kind of big thing for their birthday. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, it's exciting.
Yeah, so it's a big project. It's going to take a little time and work to get it put together, but I'll keep you all updated on where we're at with it.
Well, I appreciate all this work I know the staff's gonna have to put into this. You know, it sounds like it's really gonna actually mushroom into a much bigger deal than Mike even had in mind in terms of longevity and, you know, what could come of it, so appreciate it.
Yes.
I think it's a great idea though to generate revenue to buy pieces for the permanent collection. It really is a great way to do that.
And
And expose-
just letting everybody know, letting the town know that we are, you know, we have the intention to generate funding to buy public art.
Yeah.
You know, kind of kick it off because it might, the mere act of showing that we're serious about trying to purchase art for the, you know, for the city, might drive some other funding streams, might bring some small funding streams out of the woodwork or somewhere. People that say, hey, I want to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to have to put a fund together, so you may have an anonymous donor that says, I think you guys are doing great things. Here's 10 grand to buy some art. You know?
Yeah,
That's right.
you never know.
And with Crystal Bridges, I think that it really, Northwest Arkansas could really put a name for itself on the map in the arts communities, in the visual arts community especially. And if we could kind of piggyback off of that, I think it would be very good for the region.
Yeah, I mean, if Crystal Bridges is going to go ahead and help us make Northwest Arkansas an art destination, then there's no reason we shouldn't benefit from it.
Well, I think when we get it put together, you'll have artists that will want to do this show for the simple fact that it's so close to Crystal Bridges, and the buyers from Crystal Bridges will probably come down and see the show.
Yeah.
And so you're probably going to get some pretty high caliber artists because they just want the exposure in Northwest Arkansas.
Want to be recognized under the nose of Crystal Bridges.
Yeah.
I guess that would be one of our parameters. Going to be American artists.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Let's expand. Let's push that envelope, I say, but okay. I like it. I'm excited, and I agree that this is extra work for the staff, and appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do, so.
Well, and it sounds like there isn't really anything to be done by us now on this. It's just a waiting game.
Yeah, I'll just keep you updated.
Except somebody probably needs to talk to Mike Davis. And
We've talked with.
Oh,
Mike.
you have? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's, you know, he understands and he figured that it would be a little more complicated than how we first looked at it, you know. But he's excited about it. He wants, you know, when the RFP goes out, he said he definitely is going to put together a proposal for it.
Good. Yeah, that's good to hear because I was afraid he'd be all
Alienated.
mad that we took his idea and ran with it. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, given that you have to leave in 5 minutes.
Yes, I can. But I apologize for that, and I will try to get
Keeping us
a
going.
substitute for my class in the future that's on Wednesdays. Okay,
All right,
where
let's
are we?
get on to things.
We're gonna page 2011, okay.
So, the action steps for 2011, we're moved on to that, right?
Yep.
Yep.
We're working with, well, one of the ones left over from 2010 was to work with Creative Economy for the leveraging the cultural arts district. And that kind of carries over into 2011. The inventory
Oh my gosh, yeah.
is 2 pieces of that: research and archive the story of each public art piece identified in the inventory, and then put it on the city website. And then the last one is request of staff to research topic of permanent public arts funding streams, including alternatives and associated costs and benefits and legal constraints. I kind of feel like
That fell in your lap.
yeah, the sculpture show thing that we're working on
That
kind of
applies.
fits really good with that one. So that's kind of where we're at with it. So I don't know if anybody's who's gotten any further along with working with the creative.
I attended one of their
Creative
meetings,
Economy.
and their meeting wound up being like sort of a recap. You know, not much new went on. We talked about it a little bit, but then I guess the last 3, the meeting I attended was the one that was right before our last meeting. So since then, I haven't been to any of the others.
And I think that, you know, maybe this sculpture event, because it'll be a lot of work to pull that off. And I think maybe this group, the Arts Council and the Creative Economy group, when we start pulling that together, I think that there'll be a lot more opportunity for cross, you know.
Right.
I think having a project and a vision and a goal helps drive everybody to get to that point.
That'll be a great opportunity.
So
for us
hopefully, hopefully that would be the opportunity that we would have to have a better, you know, working
Well, Julie and
relationship.
I've been going, you know, because of working on the gallery guides, so I think that's been a good start in terms of meeting both of those goals, you know,
Yeah.
getting the inventory started, and
Yeah.
and I know she's been in touch with the Walton Art Center some, and I've been in touch with the university some, and they're kind of working on, they're kind of throwing like, oh, public art, well, you know, so talking to different people if they're trying to get something generated from them in terms of pieces that they would consider. Because I'm sure once I get something from them, it'll have a good history. They'll have all the info. So.
I think what happens is like what's happened with the city is we just started taking pieces, you know, benches here, the castle,
Right.
a Kaminsky piece
And
here.
nobody was tracking.
You know, and nobody was keeping track of it, and then you end up with, you know, a dozen, 20 pieces, and you're like, we really need to have a handle on what we have,
Yeah, it's
where
like-
it's at.
Somebody needs to write down the oral history of art in
Yeah.
Fayetteville. you know.
Right. So I think that's the point where we're at. We've got to the point where we've got enough that we understand that we need to have a better understanding of it. We just got to put it all together and then have a protocol moving forward to where we keep good records of what we
We've
got.
got started.
Where with the gallery guide are we as far as like, weren't they gonna save us about 10 to 12 spots in the gallery guide or something for public art? Is that still where everything is at?
That's where we are. I don't think we ended up with 12, but it's all, you know, Jillian identified what pieces we could, got the history on them, turned it in, so we're just waiting on the gallery guide now to,
When is that supposed to come out?
well, it keeps, the fall. So
Okay.
it's kind of shifted a little bit. I'm thinking November, but I'm not.
Well, as far as the inventory, I mean, it seems like that's been a much bigger process than we had anticipated. And I'm kind of at an impasse with it. Huh?
It's a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of at an impasse with it, and I'd be open to, different strategies.
Well, I think just when the gallery guide comes out too, that's gonna generate, people are gonna see that, I feel like just word of mouth, they're gonna, well, why isn't such and such on there? I know, and people are gonna start, it's gonna come to their attention and I think generate some, because of what's not on there that we probably missed, some things are gonna come up from that, so. But I would like, not in this meeting, but Julie and I talked about if we're going to go forward with this, and maybe it's not something the whole group needs to do, but the committee get some kind of timeline on exactly where we want to go with it in terms of, we had talked about, including at some point, starting to incorporate architectural work and things like that. If we could even get a 2 or 3 year timeline on what we wanted to add to the list from year to year, so we could target specific things and not just be pouring stuff in everywhere. I think it might be a more thorough result if we target things like this 6 months or this year we're going to look just at this, and then we're going to do architecture in 2012 or 2000 whatever.
So you're thinking that this might have been sort of eventually outgrow, us adding to the gallery guide and just become.
Well, I think that was the intention. The gallery guide just came up later. That
Right. So eventually we'll be doing, we'll have, three-dimensional architecture, and still include the galleries.
Well, the gallery guide is a whole separate project. I think what we need eventually is to have our own archive inventory, whether it's in just a file or whether we want to actually produce a document. But for the city,
that's what I was unclear whether you were talking about what we were doing with the gallery guide growing, or if you jumped back to our original.
The gallery guide would continue to grow, but I think that project, if that project died, it's not particularly. We still need to carry on with our inventory.
Right.
So.
And we haven't changed our goal from being, hopefully eventually detailed list of everything around interactive map on the access available website.
I think we get to locate the mapping part of it's easy. Yeah. It's an afternoon working with the guys downstairs. It's getting all this, getting all the paperwork to do that.
Who is in charge of this inventory?
Well, it's a subcommittee of the Arts Council.
Would you
like to be?
Yes.
And how far along? I would love to see it. This is fascinating.
Well,
and the public's going along.
I'll admit that with the ball has been moving slowly, maybe not at all at times, and we've had a lot of ideas in terms of how to collect the information and using the public to help us do that, but we really haven't gotten a lot of those ideas off the ground. So. And Robert and I had several meetings with the flyer because that idea's still been kicking around, but it just never seems to go from meeting and talk to action. So I don't know how much of that is just,
If we could do some kind of event like that or promotion between after the first of the spring of next year or late fall, early winter, so that we could generate something new for the next gallery guide. Because it could be after this gallery guide comes out, there'll be enough public awareness to start generating something like that. And if we could tag on quick enough from the time the gallery guide comes out to some kind of event or promote whatever we want to do, to be ready for next spring, I think we could keep the ball rolling with the public interest.
We might be able to get something where we get people to contribute to what we know about the various pieces that, maybe somebody else has more, somebody out there in the public has more detail than we have about some things. And then the flyer we can use to generate, like you were talking about, help us figure out what's not
On the list.
what did we miss,
Yeah.
We have the information we need for the items that are on the list. It's the items that we don't have on the list
Right.
that we made.
So really, the gallery guide is our starting inventory. So I mean, we have a basic, we have something now, which is, okay, I mean, that's good, that's something. So really now we have a basic inventory that could be put on the website, right?
Could start with what we got.
Mm-hmm.
And then that could help us too. So once we put those on the website, to your point, people are gonna say, well, what about, this, what about this piece that's not?
And we're gonna get some feedback on what the public considers public art.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which we knew that would happen, so.
Who would be manning that email?
Well, and with that in mind, could that start to happen? The
Mhm.
pieces that are in the gallery guide list go on?
I think, yeah, as soon as you're ready to get that information out there, if you,
Okay.
but
So there we
I
go.
work with a person in our department that keeps the website updated, so it's not a big deal to add it once we got it all put together.
That is huge. I mean, that's something actually happening on the inventory, which
Yeah.
I feel really good about.
I think if it's just a dozen, I think that's fine.
That's a start.
I mean, because
I know, I was like,
I think you want to leave some stuff
No,
out
other
there.
people
You
did some
want
work.
to engage the public and have them
Yeah.
go, well, why didn't you put this?
Well,
in
there's
there?
already been some questions. There was a couple of things we didn't put on there because they were actually, I think one was paid for. It was I can't remember what the other one was. That was a project kind of oriented thing that we didn't think really fell in.
I'm sorry, you guys. I have to
Oh,
have to
go ahead.
go. But
And thank you for all your work on that.
I haven't done much, but I'm
Gallery guide.
gonna try to do better.
Well,
I'll
I
talk
volunteered a year ago to help get it on the flyer and to get that part going. That offer's still standing. So
Okay.
I never got an answer from anyone on that, so I got.
Oh, you emailed and Robert and yeah, I know. I don't know.
Who is the committee right now? You?
I think it's
You
me,
two
you
and
and
Robert?
Robert, and you had already done the
I was
work.
never notified I was on the committee.
Well,
either.
Julie-
Would you like to be on
I
the
would like to
committee?
be, yes.
Well, Leaf may need to remind us who's on the committee then. 'Cause-
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look
Okay,
in the
and
minutes
then
of
we can,
those meetings.
can you do that?
But Julie and Robert are not on the Arts Council anymore.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
That doesn't mean that they can't,
Yeah.
work on that stuff, or participate, or help out, or do whatever. I mean, I know Julie works with the creative economy group too, which is good to have that crossover there. But however you guys want to get it going, I think we can start. I think we can start with the list that you got.
Yes. we
The
can start
more,
with that.
the more members emeritus of the Arts Council that we can keep, involved in some of these committees, the better, I think. Especially if they're also working with
It was
other
nice
groups.
to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll
Thank
see
you.
guys
See
later.
you
I'm
later.
really sorry.
All right.
So looking at our goals, is there anything we need to?
I think that we're, I mean, obviously these things are kind of fluid and goals kind of change, especially when you write them 2 years out and then you finally get to that point in the future where, but.
Yeah, that's the thing. Does anybody feel like that any of our goals are, that we have down there now need to be amended? I mean, it seems like a couple of them are fitting with what we're doing.
I think they all are. I mean, I think that what Betsy and Julie have been working on fits, the cultural arts district stuff, the inventory, we can get it up on the website when we got ready to go, and then the sculpture event is kind of working on that fifth one. To reevaluate the municipal infrastructure process after 1 year. We haven't really had a lot going on with that. But I think the process, the donation process is working pretty well. And we were able to get Hank's project through really quick. A lot of that just so happened that the Parks Board and the Arts Council were meeting the same week.
I like
And
it.
so you got 2 meetings out of the way in 3 days to get ready to go forward to council. But I'm pretty happy that, you know, he brought all that stuff to me last week, and now he's one step away from approval. So
Yeah, I mean, that really does make sort of an easy win for us on
Yeah.
that one, so.
yeah.
All right, well, you know, seeing nothing new really on our goals that we need to, you know, act on, change anything. Does anybody have any new business, anything they want to discuss? No. All right. Seeing no new business, I move to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.